When shelves go empty and prices skyrocket, the wrong groceries in your cart could leave your family hungry within days. But the right ones can feed you for months, even through the worst crisis. Today, we're exposing 7 grocery staples you should avoid at all costs, and revealing 2 powerhouse foods that could literally keep you alive when everything else fails. Let's start with the so-called morning essential that collapses the moment the supply chain stumbles. Number 7. Processed breakfast cereals. Sarah Martinez reaches for her usual box of cornflakes in Phoenix last March. The shelf stretches empty for 12 feet. The next shipment, 3 weeks out, maybe 4. Her kids ate the same cereal every morning for 6 years. Now breakfast became a daily negotiation. Processed breakfast cereals rank as the 7th item to avoid because they depend on the most fragile supply chain in modern food. One factory produces cereal for entire regions. When that factory shuts down, equipment failure, contamination scare, labor dispute, your breakfast disappears overnight. The numbers tell the brutal story. 85% of American cereal production flows through just 12 facilities. Kellogg's alone controls 40% of the ready-to-eat cereal market from 4 major plants. When their Memphis facility went offline for 2 weeks in February, store managers across the Southeast started rationing Lucky Charms and Frosted Flakes like wartime supplies. But the deeper problem runs through ingredients. Cereals require consistent corn syrup, specific wheat grades, particular vitamin blends, exact packaging materials. Miss one component and production stops dead. During the supply chain crisis of 2022, cereal aisles stayed half empty for 8 months, while bread, rice, and oats remained available. Smart households learned the lesson. Breakfast flexibility beats brand loyalty. Oats cook the same whether they arrive in branded boxes or bulk bins. Eggs provide better nutrition and come from local sources. Toast adapts to whatever bread you can find. The vulnerability compounds during manufacturing strikes. Cereal workers possess specialized knowledge about complex production lines. When they walk out, replacement workers need months to reach full productivity. Meanwhile, competitors can't scale up quickly enough to fill the gap. But here's where it gets worse. Number 6 forces you to choose between nutrition and availability, and most people choose wrong. Number 6. Fresh produce from single regions. Michael Chen manages produce for a Portland grocery chain. In January, 90% of his leafy greens came from California's Salinas Valley. One late frost wiped out 3 weeks of harvest. Lettuce prices jumped from $2 to $8 per head overnight. Customers started hoarding iceberg like precious metal. Fresh produce from concentrated growing regions represents the 6th item to avoid because weather doesn't negotiate. When California's Central Valley, which grows 60% of America's fruits and vegetables, faces drought, flood, or freeze, your salad becomes a luxury item. The geographic concentration creates artificial scarcity. 3 counties in California produce 70% of the nation's strawberries. Florida's Miami-Dade County grows half the winter tomatoes. Arizona's Yuma County supplies 90% of leafy greens from November through March. One bad weather event, one plant disease, one labor shortage shuts down entire categories of food. Transportation amplifies the vulnerability. Fresh produce travels an average of 1,500 miles from farm to plate. Lettuce harvested Monday in Salinas reaches Boston by Thursday if everything works perfectly. But fuel shortages, driver strikes, or weather delays mean that Tuesday's harvest rots in warehouses, while Wednesday's shoppers face empty produce aisles. The cold chain demands constant energy. Refrigerated trucks, distribution centers, store coolers. Each step requires uninterrupted power. During Texas's February freeze in 2021, power outages destroyed millions of dollars of produce in transit and storage. Items that survived the freeze spoiled from lack of refrigeration. And that leads us to number 5, an item so common you buy it without thinking, but it disappears faster than toilet paper when panic strikes. Number 5, bottled water. Janet Rodriguez stocks her garage with case after case of bottled water in Tampa. She learned from hurricane season. When the storm hits, bottled water vanishes first. But she missed the bigger lesson. When the real crisis came, a water treatment plant contamination that lasted 6 weeks. Her 3-month supply ran out in 10 days because she never rationed properly. Bottled water earns the 5th spot because it combines maximum demand with minimum efficiency. Everyone wants it, few people store it correctly, and alternatives exist everywhere you look. The panic buying creates artificial shortages even when municipal water stays safe and abundant. The math works against you. A family of 4 drinks 2 gallons of water daily under normal conditions. During stress or emergency, consumption doubles. That means 60 gallons per month minimum. Bottled water costs 50 times more than tap water and takes up enormous storage space. A month's supply for one family requires 120 standard bottles weighing over 500 pounds. The supply chain breaks down predictably. Bottled water plants can't scale production quickly. During emergencies, trucking companies prioritize higher value cargo. Store managers impose purchase limits that force multiple shopping trips. Distribution centers run out first in dense urban areas where people have the least storage space and the most competition for supplies. Smart preparedness focuses on water treatment instead of water storage. A single water filter removes bacteria, viruses, and chemicals from thousands of gallons of source water. Purification tablets treat contaminated water for pennies per gallon. Boiling kills pathogens using any heat source. Rain collection and storage systems provide renewable backup supply. The worst part, bottled water gives false confidence. People drink their emergency supplies too quickly because bottles feel abundant. They skip conservation measures that extend any water source. When supplies run out, they lack backup plans for treatment or collection. But number 4 reveals how your attempts to save money might leave you hungry when inflation really bites. We break down the hidden truths behind everyday groceries every day. Subscribe today and stay 2 steps ahead of shortages. Number 4, store brand processed foods. Tom Williams loads his cart with store brand pasta sauce, generic crackers, and house label canned soup at his local Safeway in Denver. He saves 40% compared to name brands and feels proud of his smart shopping. 3 months later, supply shortages forced the store to cut 30% of their private label products. Tom discovers his favorite items exist nowhere else. No other store carries Safeway's exact recipes. Store brand processed foods take the 4th position because they create dependency without reliability. Private label products seem like intelligent budgeting until their single source production lines shut down. Then your cost savings become unavailability problems that name brands don't share. The manufacturing reality surprises most customers. One factory produces similar products for multiple store brands. When that facility faces problems, equipment breakdown, ingredient shortages, quality control issues, several chains lose their private label versions simultaneously. Meanwhile, national brands maintain backup production facilities and alternative supplier relationships. Walmart's Great Value line sources from over 200 different manufacturers. When individual suppliers encounter problems, Walmart either finds replacement manufacturers or temporarily removes products from shelves. Customers can't buy Great Value mac and cheese anywhere except Walmart. If that specific supplier shuts down, the product simply disappears until Walmart finds a new manufacturer willing to match their recipe and price requirements. Smart shoppers learn to diversify brand preferences. Instead of committing to store brands exclusively, they identify acceptable alternatives across multiple national brands. Generic pasta sauce might save money during normal times, but Rouse or Hunt's will remain available when supply chains stress. And that brings us to number 3, something 90% of households consider essential, but it might poison your family when standards collapse. Number 3, imported canned goods. Maria Santos opens a can of tomatoes from her pantry in Chicago. The label reads, "Product of Italy" in elegant script. She paid premium prices for authentic San Marzano quality. 6 months later, FDA inspectors discovered that same Italian facility ships products with lead levels triple the safety limits. The recall affects 2 million cans across 48 states. Maria realizes her emergency food supply might be more dangerous than going hungry. Imported canned goods claim the 3rd spot because distance defeats inspection. The farther your food travels, the less oversight protects your family. When quality control breaks down overseas, American consumers become unwitting test subjects for contaminated products that domestic regulators can't monitor effectively. China supplies 60% of America's canned mushrooms, 70% of apple juice, and 40% of seafood products. When Chinese manufacturers cut corners using contaminated water, excessive pesticides, or prohibited preservatives, detection takes months or years. Meanwhile, American families consume products that would never pass domestic safety standards. Documentation fraud complicates the problem. Products labeled "Product of Spain" might contain ingredients sourced from countries with lower safety standards. Italian tomato processors import Chinese tomato paste, process it minimally, and export it as Italian products. Customers pay premium prices for perceived quality while receiving products with unknown safety profiles. The recall process moves too slowly for emergency situations. When contamination emerges, tracing imported products through complex distribution networks takes weeks. Products sit on store shelves and in home pantries while investigators work backwards through international supply chains. Domestic products get pulled within hours of safety alerts. American canned goods cost more but provide transparency about ingredients, processing locations, and safety standards. Regional brands often source ingredients locally and maintain simpler supply chains that support faster problem resolution. But number 2 exposes the cruelest irony. The comfort food you buy to reduce stress actually amplifies every crisis through hidden dependencies. Number 2. Frozen convenience meals. Robert Kim grabs 4 boxes of frozen dinners from the freezer aisle in Seattle. Salisbury steak, chicken Alfredo, beef stew. Each meal provides comfort and convenience when his work schedule explodes. 2 years later, supply chain disruptions leave frozen dinner shelves 90% empty for 3 months. Robert discovers that his go-to stress relief depends on the most complex manufacturing process in the entire grocery store. Frozen convenience meals earn the second position because they disguise complexity as simplicity. Each meal requires dozens of ingredients from multiple suppliers, precise timing across several production stages, and uninterrupted cold storage from factory to freezer. When any link breaks, the entire category collapses faster than fresh produce. The ingredient complexity stuns most consumers. A basic frozen dinner contains components from 6 to 12 different suppliers. Stauffer's lasagna requires pasta from one facility, meat from another, cheese from a third, sauce from a fourth, and packaging from a fifth. Coordinating those deliveries demands supply chain precision that dissolves during disruptions. Manufacturing bottlenecks multiply the vulnerabilities. Frozen meal production requires specialized equipment that can't be replicated quickly. Steam injection ovens, blast freezers, and automated packaging lines represent millions of dollars in infrastructure that takes years to install and calibrate. When key facilities shut down, competitors can't absorb the production volume. Storage limitations compound the problems. Most household freezers can't accommodate more than 2 weeks of frozen meals for a typical family. Commercial freezer space costs more than ambient storage, limiting how much extra inventory stores maintain. When supplies tighten, frozen food sections empty faster than any other grocery department. The brand dependency creates false loyalty. Families develop preferences for specific frozen meal brands and flavors that exist nowhere except major grocery chains. When those products disappear, suitable substitutes don't exist because each manufacturer uses proprietary recipes and processing techniques. And now we reach number 1, the item that seems most essential but becomes completely worthless when you need it most. Number 1, fresh bread from commercial bakeries. Linda Chen stops at her neighborhood Safeway in Portland every Tuesday for fresh baked French bread. The bakery produces 200 loaves daily, always perfect, always available. Thursday morning brings news that the commercial bakery supplier shut down due to equipment failure. Store-baked bread disappears completely. The bread aisle shows only empty shelves where local production used to provide daily abundance. Linda learns that fresh baked meant delivered frozen and heated. Fresh bread from commercial bakeries takes the number 1 spot because it combines maximum vulnerability with minimum notice. Most customers believe their grocery store bakes bread fresh daily. Reality: 90% of store bakeries receive frozen dough or par-baked loaves from centralized facilities. When those facilities shut down, entire regions lose bread simultaneously. The industrial concentration creates artificial scarcity. 3 companies, Bimbo Bakeries, Flowers Foods, and Campbell Soup, control 60% of American bread production. Their factory-to-store systems prioritize efficiency over resilience. One plant breakdown affects hundreds of stores across multiple states. Local alternatives don't exist because independent bakeries couldn't compete with industrial pricing. The shelf life creates inventory nightmares. Stores must sell bread within 3 to 5 days or absorb total losses. During demand spikes, stores can't order extra inventory because unsold bread becomes pure waste. During supply shortages, allocation systems favor high-volume urban stores over smaller rural locations. The cost structure prevents quick substitution. Commercial bread costs $2 to $3 per loaf while maintaining family consumption patterns. Artisanal or specialty breads cost $8 to $12 per loaf. Financially impossible for most households during extended shortages. Rice, pasta, and potatoes provide calories, but don't replace bread's convenience and versatility. But here's what kept communities fed when everything else failed. The 2 items that prove more valuable than gold when crisis strikes. Survivor number 2, dried beans and legumes. When Venezuela's economy collapsed, Maria Gutierrez watched neighbors trade jewelry for rice while her family ate hearty bean stews every night. She had stockpiled 50 pounds of dried black beans, pinto beans, and lentils in sealed containers. Those beans provided protein, fiber, and calories for 8 months while other families went hungry. The beans cost her $40 total, less than 2 weeks of her previous grocery budget. Dried beans and legumes earn the second survivor position because they solve the protein crisis that destroys most emergency food plans. While meat disappears and prices skyrocket, beans provide complete protein when combined with rice or grains. They store for decades without refrigeration, resist pests better than grains, and multiply their volume dramatically when cooked. The storage efficiency beats every other protein source. 1 pound of dried beans yields 6 to 8 servings of cooked beans. A 50-pound bag feeds a family of 4 for 2 months and stores in a space smaller than a microwave oven. Compare that to frozen meat, which requires constant electricity and provides maybe 2 weeks of protein in the same storage space. The versatility adapts to any cooking situation. Beans cook effectively in slow cookers, pressure cookers, stovetops, or even outdoor fires. They absorb flavors from available seasonings and vegetables. Whether you're making chili, soup, hummus, or side dishes, beans stretch other ingredients while providing substantial nutrition that keeps families satisfied longer. The economic resilience protects against inflation. Bean prices stay relatively stable because they're commodities traded globally with multiple producing regions. When meat prices double or triple, bean prices might increase 20%. Families can maintain protein intake without destroying their budgets or compromising their financial recovery plans. The preparation flexibility accommodates changing circumstances. Soaked beans cook faster and use less fuel than unsoaked ones. Pre-cooked beans freeze well for quick meals later. Bean flour provides baking options when wheat becomes scarce. Sprouted beans add fresh nutrition when vegetables disappear from stores. And the number one item that outperforms everything else when society breaks down, survivor number 1, white rice. David Park learned about rice during his grandfather's stories from Korea. When everything collapsed, war, economy, infrastructure, rice kept families alive. 50 years later in Los Angeles, David stockpiled 200 pounds of white rice in sealed buckets with oxygen absorbers. During the 2020 supply chain crisis, rice sustained his family while neighbors paid 4 times normal prices for limited groceries. White rice claims the top survival position because it provides perfect crisis nutrition, maximum calories per dollar, indefinite storage life, universal preparation methods, and psychological comfort during extreme stress. When everything else fails, rice feeds families completely rather than just supplementing other foods. The caloric density maximizes survival energy. 1 pound of rice provides 1,600 calories when cooked, enough to sustain an adult for most of a day. A 50-pound bag contains enough calories to feed 1 person for 2 months or a family of 4 for 2 weeks. During calorie-scarce situations, rice prevents the weakness and mental fog that doom emergency planning. The preparation simplicity works with any heat source. Rice cooks in any pot with any clean water and any heat source. Gas stove, electric burner, campfire, or alcohol stove. Unlike bread or meat, rice requires no special equipment, timing expertise, or ingredient combinations. Children can learn to cook rice safely, while adults handle other emergency tasks. The digestive reliability prevents crisis complications. White rice rarely causes allergic reactions, digestive upset, or food intolerance problems. During stress, when immune systems weaken and medical care becomes unavailable, rice provides safe nutrition that won't create additional health problems for family members. The economic efficiency beats every alternative. Rice costs 30 to 50 cents per pound in bulk quantities. Those same calories from processed foods cost 5 to 10 times more. From meat sources, 15 to 20 times more. Rice allows families to maintain adequate nutrition while preserving financial resources for other emergency needs. The versatility adapts to any available ingredients. Rice pairs successfully with any vegetables, proteins, or seasonings that remain available. It absorbs flavors without dominating them. Whether you're making Spanish rice with canned tomatoes, fried rice with frozen vegetables, or rice pudding with powdered milk, rice transforms whatever else you can find into satisfying meals. So today, you saw why fragile foods like cereal, bottled water, and even fresh bread can vanish overnight. And why simple staples like beans and rice will outlast almost any crisis. Remember, this isn't about fear. It's about being smarter than the system. When you know what to avoid and what to stock, your family stays fed and secure no matter what happens. And if you thought grocery stores were fragile, wait until you see the survival gear mistakes that could fail you when you need them most. That's coming up in 7 survival items to avoid at all costs, and 2 that will help you survive the next crisis. Hit like, drop a comment with what you're stocking, and subscribe. Your input helps us uncover the next survival secrets together.